In 2017, players were already exploiting the physics of Mario Odyssey, and only a year later, we were quite literally breaking the walls of Mario Odyssey speedrunning. So as you can imagine, Mario Odyssey speedruns in current time are absolutely insane. Today we will be looking at the evolution of these speedruns, and as a former top runner of this game, I can guarantee you will be starstruck by the end of the video. Perhaps even moonstruck. Right off the gate, Mario Odyssey's complex moveset as well as Cappy's abilities created for some pretty clean speedruns. Koopa freerunning, or KFR, was one of the first things people tackled, as it was basically a built-in game feature where you can compete among people on a global leaderboard for the fastest time across a lot of the kingdoms. This is a KFR speedrun world record from December 2017. John was able to do luncheon in 11 seconds, and as you can see, a variety of movement tech is used to make this possible. For reference, the current luncheon world record is a 9-second time, which really puts into perspective how quickly KFR is optimized. Every frame matters. However, what had plenty of room for optimization were the full game speedruns of Super Mario Odyssey, whether it be beating the game as fast as possible or 100% completion. Runners had managed to beat all of Super Mario Odyssey in under an hour and 10 minutes upon the game's release, but this time would quickly go down as new optimizations were discovered. One of these optimizations was a game-breaking glitch. We know that Mario is able to do rolls, and if we want to stop this roll, we can do a jump, or we can throw out Cappy and do what is called a roll cancel. Only our roll cancel is useful for, well, roll canceling, but unlike jumping out of a roll, you maintain your speed. Using this roll cancel technique, you are able to bypass certain walls, especially walls that have some sort of sloped curvature, like the Sphinx here. If you press the jump button as Cappy comes back to you, you can do what is called a rainbow spin. The spin stalls Mario in the air for a bit longer than usual. Now, if you combine this rainbow spin with a homing cap throw, you become a parkour elite. To add on to this, runners started implementing a strategy called vectoring. Essentially, if you stray Mario around instead of just going in a perfectly straight line, you gain a bit more distance. This tech is useful for not only trick jumps, but for strategies in full game runs, such as this jump here where you jump off of the Odyssey to get this painting moon. By the end of 2017, not only were Super Mario Odyssey challenges thriving, 80% had been brought down to a low 105 by Shaden. Koopa freerunning was getting more insane every day, and people had the balls to tackle these longer categories, spanning from 4 hours all the way to 12 hours. Keep in mind that this is Mario Odyssey only 2 months after release. These next 2 years I'm about to cover are where things truly ramp up. So you know those moons that you collect to like progress through the game? What if you did a backflip followed by a cap throw into the moon? Oh, it looks like Mario bypassed the physics of the wall. Too bad this accidental discovery was deemed as a useless clip. It would be quite ironic if we could use this seemingly useless clip to our advantage. Okay, even if this useless clip saved a few seconds here and a few seconds there, there's no way that we could use this specific nut in Wooded Kingdom to clip out of bounds, grab this moon while staying in bounds, and then going out of bounds to perform an Olympiad tier climb up this extremely slanted slope that is intended to only be bypassed when you have a super speed rocket flower, which would save 30 seconds and 80% and even more time in other categories. Oh wait, you can do that. Looks like this clip is actually pretty useful. How about that first moon you're supposed to collect in Mario Odyssey? What if we just fucking skipped it? Call that a time save. Or how about throwing Cappy through this sus looking wall and then doing this fancy movement to get some moons? Call that a time save. Or how about using this quirky fish to escape the bounds of Seaside Kingdom? Call that a time save. Or how about using this literal turnip to clip through this barrier, fighting this dragon, fighting this boss with just Mario, or even manipulating time itself so that this seed will automatically grow? Call that a time save. Ever thought about reaching new heights in your life? Well, you could do that with a nut in Super Mario Odyssey. Infinite heights are technically possible. You would just have to repeat the same sequence of inputs infinitely. Also, this is only possible when the nut is wet, and you may be asking why. Well, unfortunately, I do not have the answer to that question, but I think it's pretty funny. I think I'm also kind of funny, so if you like the video, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button. With all of these new discoveries, Mario Odyssey was able to be cleared in just barely under an hour. Microvita was the first to pull this off and in late March of 2019, and to this day, this is one of the most notorious accomplishments in speedrunning. For the strategies at the time, this run had to have been executed to near perfection, leaving no room for big mistakes and only a small margin for tiny errors. Now, in the middle of 2019, Mario Odyssey was updated, and in this update, they weirdly patched Sphinx Clip as well as the traditional first moon skip, but pretty much everything else was perfectly possible. However, the load times became exponentially faster, so even with the loss of 2 tricks and some other things, speedrunners were still saving 10 seconds over 1.0. This new era is what I like to call the tiny large growth era. Now, why do I coin such a contradictory and silly name? Well, I say tiny because a lot of tiny time saves and movement optimizations were found that were applicable in all aspects of the game, given the game has such a complex moveset with a skill gap similar to that of Mario 64 and other games. On the contrary, I say large as these optimizations added up, and it was truly apparent when Mitch got a world record of 59.14, smashing the previous world record that was a 59.30 by Chaos Springle. This momentum carried on and led runners all the way to a sub 59 time. We all know that in 2020 the pandemic hit, and I truly think this was the turning point Mario Odyssey needed, because as we all know, time is our biggest luxury and the pandemic gave people lots of time. Minimum captures, or min caps, became the most infamous challenge in Mario Odyssey, and part of this is due to that sweet evolution. It was somehow discovered that if you go into 2-player mode and then do some weird stuff, you can infinitely move Cappy as far as you want. This is called a CRC, or a Cappy return cancel, and it would be extremely useful for min caps as we can home into the checkpoints to skip what would otherwise be an essential capture. This brought down min caps all the way to 3 captures, which is where it still stands today, but longer categories are still in question. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention that since you're 1 player playing on 2-player mode, you have to quite literally use your feet to control Cappy. You think I'm joking? Take it from 04, dude. This guy has mastered movement with not only his hands, but his feet, which allowed for him to get the 2-player world record for any percent as 1 player. Now imagine one day you're playing Super Mario Odyssey and you accidentally stumble upon a slither of invisible ground to land on. Well, luckily MeWe is the perfect person to accidentally do this, because he and a few others quickly began to theorize if it's possible to go any higher on the wall, which eventually turned into a question of just skipping the entire 2D section. Well, let's just say that the answer to that question is a definitive yes. As we make our way to the present day, the dominance of a few players cannot go without notice, especially with how competitive Mario speedrunning can really be. Tyrone18 is the undisputed champion of any percent, being the first to get a 56, and he holds the world records in World Peace, Dark Side, and Darker Side. That sounds like a lot, but Tyrone has gotten countless amount of world records, it's not even funny. There's also Hey There Cool, who has everyone beat in all moons and 100%, and Buster Doggy is the best Koopa freerunning player with the lowest sum of times and holder of most world records. And there are so many other talented players out there, but those are the 3 that come to my mind when I think of people who have pushed times way past their theorized limits. Some may say that they helped evolve Mario Odyssey speedruns, however none of this is possible without the collective effort of the entire community. This is the work and product of thousands of people. After all, teamwork does make a dream work, and we're only scratching the surface.